Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. Thanks for joining us tonight. Lots to get into, including college football. They have a plan to get back onto the field. We'll talk about it. Also, the NFL. 4th and 15. A lot of people like that in place of the onside kick, but they're not going to get it, at least this year. Major League Baseball continues to struggle. Owners, players can't come to terms on a deal. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be hockey. It is returning, and now we know how it will return. And here's your panel. Alongside me, it's Rich Walsh over in Studio B. That's bottom left. To the bottom right, it's Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. And Andrew, start with you on this. Gary Bettman came out, outlined the plan. They're going to invite 24 teams, not 16. You got to get there. You have to play in. We'll get that first. But do you like 24 teams, given what this is turning into?
Well, I don't know if 24 is not my ideal number, because I don't think the Blackhawks and Canadiens should be in this thing. Montreal, 15 points behind the Penguins. They had mathematically a 1% chance of making the playoffs, Bob, when this format was laid out. Now, if you're in 11th place like the Rangers, you're only 2 points behind Carolina. So I don't have a problem with including them. We know why Montreal and Chicago are here. It's because when they get this thing rebooted, you get Canada with the Canadiens, and Chicago is one of the biggest hockey markets in America.
You know what? I go back and forth with this one. I originally wanted the 16 team, and then I thought about it more. Then I wanted 20 teams in, and the wild cards just fight it out, and then the division teams get the buys. But I like this 24 team. I think it's going to be exciting 2 months of hockey, and I hear a lot of Penguins fans that are upset that the Penguins have to play in that first round, but I actually think it's good for the Penguins to play in that first round. I think the Penguins right now are better suited for a playoff than they were in March. They're getting Jake Gensel back. They have some time to rest those stars. So I like this whole format a lot.
A lot of people don't like best of 5 right off the bat, and then potentially best of 5 for the next round of games. The first one, we don't know that yet. It could be best of 7. The final 2, the conference championship and the Stanley Cup, will both be best of 7. But Pony, when you look at it, do you like best of 5 right off the bat, or some people suggested best of 3?
I think it's a good compromise. I think 5 is probably the best number, Bob, because these teams, I don't want to elongate a series between, the 8th team and the 9th team, 2 teams that are in the middle of the pack. And so 3 games isn't fair enough. Why ramp everything back up? Have these guys fly back to North America, to these hub cities, for only a best of 3. So you're trying to find, I think, a happy medium with that. It's not fair, really, for the Penguins. They were 7th in points, but you know what? Don't be in 3rd place. I don't hear a ton of Penguins fans complaining about this format, but the ones who are, finish ahead of Washington or Philadelphia, and then you're not in this situation.
Yeah, they were 3-7 in their last 10 games. They were playing bad down the stretch there before they shut things down. I think, like you, Pony, it's a good compromise. 3 games is too little. 7 games is just going to be too long. I know the players, and Letang talked about he'd rather see 7-game series. But 5 games, I think, is about right. And I think the Penguins will win this series against Montreal. Montreal was what? They were barely mathematically in this one. I like the 5-game series. I think the Penguins handle the Canadiens. I think it's a good compromise, exactly like Pony said.
Yep, but the problem is you run into potentially a goaltender who could win a series like this. And Montreal, quite frankly,
but in 5 games, I think you take that out of it. 5 games, I think it evens it out.
I mean, it's still, if he gets hot, he gets hot. I'm saying a longer series would benefit the better team, in my opinion. But what I'm trying to say is that this situation now, if you're looking at the Penguins, they have to play this. I like them better playing a best of 5 than what I see from Boston and the top 4 seeds, that they're playing a round-robin thing to determine the first seed. If I had a problem with anything, if I'm a team, it would be Boston, Rich, because they have the #1 point total of all teams in the NHL, and they may end up with a 4th seed. I don't think that's, if you're going to complain about anything, it would be that.
Who would you guys want to see the Penguins play if they were to beat the Canadiens in that first round?
Flyers.
Me too.
See, I'd rather see Washington.
Why?
Because I don't think their goaltending situation's stable. I know that we've had a bunch of months off.
You think Philadelphia is? I think Carter Hart's an up-and-down project. Still, he hasn't proven to me anything.
Well, what did Jordan Binnington prove?
Okay, you think he's going to duplicate that? That's hard to duplicate.
No. Well, how about Matt Murray? All I'm saying is that young goaltenders, Cam Ward, Jim Rutherford, his first Stanley Cup as a GM. We've seen these young goaltenders come out of nowhere and win. I think Washington's in a similar boat as the Penguins. They've got the entrenched goalie in Holtby, but the guy behind him was playing better this year. So to me, they're not a good. They got John Carlson, who's terrific, but I think outside of him, their defense is not even close to the blue line the Penguins put in front of whoever is playing goal for them, Jarry or Murray.
Yeah, I think Tampa or Boston will be the 1 and the 2, no matter how they play this round-robin tournament to determine. I think it probably, like you said, Pony, it's either going to be Washington or Philadelphia that the Penguins will have to play in that second round. If they get past Montreal, I think they will. But, you know, one of my big concerns with the Penguins is we're talking about goalies here. Matt Murray, I mean, are they going to switch back and forth between him and Tristan Jarry if Murray doesn't play well in a couple games? Do you go with Jarry? That's concerning to me.
I think they'd prefer for Jarry to be their. I think if they had it their way, don't they want Jarry to win them the Stanley Cup? Because that would answer their one remaining question about him. Can he play in the playoffs? He's going to be cheaper. They're both restricted free agents. Yeah, you take a Stanley Cup any way you can win it, but I think ideally for the Penguins, they'd rather have Jarry in net carrying them to a championship. I think.
That makes sense, but you know, I think if Murray has a decent game and they lose game 1, I don't know that I'm going to be in a position to take him out of there because of his history. Would you do that, Rich?
Yeah, that's what's concerning me. If he loses game 1 and he struggles in game 2 and they barely win,
but how about if they lose game 1 and he's not the reason they lose game 1, but he lost game 1?
He usually gives up one of those bad goals early on, right? Yeah, I see your point here, but that's what's concerning to me. If they lose game 1 or game 2, are they going to go to Jarry just to give them a spark? I would disagree with you guys. I want to see Matt Murray go and win this whole thing for them, and then they can get more for him. You know, they could tender him, they could trade him. Somehow, they're not going to pay him. Matt Murray is not the future of the Penguins.
If he was like the Conn Smythe winner and carried them to a Stanley Cup and won 3, this is a team that talks about championship windows. In that scenario, I don't think they could get rid of him.
How are they going to pay him?
You pay him.
How would you pay him? What are you going to do?
Because he's 27 years old and he has 3 Stanley Cup rings. You pay him.
The salary cap's going to go down.
You find
Who do
other
you get
ways.
rid of? What are you going to? You can't.
Sure
you can't
can.
get rid of Crosby. You can't get rid of Malkin.
There are other guys.
You're not going to get rid of Tang, it looks like.
You might decide one of those other guys. I mean, you got a 27-year-old goalie with that much experience in playoff hockey, and you're just going to discard him without knowing that
maybe sign him and trade him.
I mean, Richie, he's only a restricted free agent, though. He can't go out there and shop around for 30 offers. I think in that situation, if he were to win, they'd probably broker a very short-term deal. Maybe it would only be a 1-year extension for like $7 million. But I think they'd give him the opportunity to run it back. I mean, you think Jim Rutherford's Jerry Krause? All of a sudden, he'd tell the guy to hit the road?
I'm not saying hit the road.
I can't say that.
I'm saying more value. More value. I always go back to, I don't like doing the Fleury-Murray talk here, but I always go back to they would have gotten so much more for Murray. Who knows if they would have won that second cup, but they would have gotten a lot more for Murray if they would have traded him. And I understand salary had a lot to do with it, but that's just my opinion. It could be the same scenario here.
It's going to be very interesting how it plays out. Who's in goal, who stays in goal, who comes in. We'll learn a lot about their future while going through the present, and that present hopefully will begin at the end of July into August. We have plenty more coming up. Next, we're going to talk about the damage baseball is doing to itself and how bad can it get if they don't play this season. But first, I'm going to tell you, it's always exciting when a team moves into a new building. That's certainly true at the team at #1 Cochran Hyundai South Hills and their spacious new facility, even though they only moved just a mile up the street. Right now, for a limited time, get special grand opening offers in both sales and service. It's the new #1 Cochran Hyundai South Hills, now conveniently located at 3220 West Liberty Avenue. We'll be right back. The #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran, Go One Better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.